You know the feeling. We've all been there, right? You're circling the block again and again, your eyes are peeled, and you're getting more and more frustrated just looking for that one single, elusive parking spot. It's a universal headache. But what if I told you that daily struggle isn't just an annoyance? What if it's actually a symptom of a much, much bigger problem hiding in plain sight?
So let's really dig into that question, because we're about to explore a pretty radical idea that our entire approach to parking is secretly warping our cities, costing us an absolute fortune, and get this, creating the very traffic jams it's supposed to be solving. To really wrap our heads around this, let's just start with one single staggering number: 96%. What in the world is that? Well, that's the average amount of time a car is parked, just sitting there, idle. Think about that for a second. We have built our entire world around a technology that does nothing for almost its entire life, and we dedicate an immense amount of valuable space to it. So how on earth did our cities turn into these giant storage lots for cars? Well, it wasn't an accident, and it definitely wasn't inevitable. It was actually the result of a series of very specific decisions made over the last century that completely changed how we think about the curb. Okay, so it all started back in 1935. Oklahoma City installed the world's very first parking meter. Now, the goal wasn't to raise money. It was simply to make sure that customers could find spots to park so they could shop. But then you fast forward to the 60s and 70s, and cities were terrified of competing with these new suburban malls. So they started pushing for free and abundant parking. The original purpose was just completely lost. And as you can see from this Boston example, prices basically didn't change for decades, which means, thanks to inflation, parking just got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And here's the really wild part. Back then, merchants actually wanted parking meters. They could see that pricing the curb was good for business. The shops on the metered side of the street had this constant flow of new customers, while the free side was just clogged up with cars that never moved all day. But that logic got completely flipped on its head. As the meter rates just didn't keep up with inflation, they stopped being an effective tool. And city leaders, well, they were afraid of political backlash, so they just didn't have the will to price parking in a way that made sense. The goal shifted from ensuring access for customers to providing free storage for cars. And that shift came with a whole host of hidden costs. Because let's be clear, free parking was never actually free. We all pay for it. We just pay for it in ways we rarely ever see, through higher prices on everything from our housing to our groceries, and through more traffic and more pollution. One of the biggest culprits is something called minimum parking requirements. These are these local laws that basically force developers to build a set number of parking spots for every new building, whether anyone actually needs them or not. And the result is often what you see here: vast empty lots. It's just wasted land that adds millions in unnecessary construction costs. So what does all that wasted space and extra construction costs actually do to our wallets? Well, it can jack up the cost of housing by a staggering 10 to 20%. That's a huge burden, especially for people who might not even own a car, but are still forced to pay for a parking spot that's bundled into their rent. And this problem goes way beyond our homes. I mean, think about how you get to work. When companies offer free parking, it acts as this incredibly powerful tax-free perk that encourages one choice above all others: driving to work, all by yourself. The parking expert Donald Shue puts it perfectly. He calls it a matching grant for driving. Think about it. Your employer gives you this valuable benefit, a free parking spot, but only if you pay for the car, the gas, and the maintenance. What if you bike, or walk, or take the train? You get nothing. It's a totally one-sided deal. And the scale of this subsidy is just immense. An incredible 95% of commuters in the US who drive to work get to park for free. We've essentially created a nationwide system that pays people to drive, which just fuels more traffic congestion and more pollution. Okay, but it doesn't have to be this way. Cities are finally starting to recognize these problems, and they're adopting a whole new way of thinking, a new paradigm that treats parking not as some kind of right, but as a valuable resource that we need to manage efficiently. So the old way of thinking was all about maximizing the supply, just build more and more, and assume it should be free, no matter what the hidden costs are. The new way is about managing what we already have for maximum efficiency. It asks a pretty simple logical question: shouldn't the people who are actually using the parking be the ones who pay for it? This new way of thinking leads to 3 key solutions that can fundamentally reshape our cities for the better. So let's take a quick look at each one. All right, first up, performance-based pricing. The idea is really simple. Instead of one flat rate all day, the price of parking changes based on demand. The goal is to always have one or two open spots on every single block. Just think about that. No more circling endlessly for a spot. That cruising is a huge cause of downtown traffic. So prices might go up a bit during a busy lunch hour and then drop in the middle of the afternoon. It's about finding the right price for the right time. Second, we have parking cash out. And this one is a real game changer. It's incredibly simple. If your employer offers you a free parking spot that's worth, let's say, $200 a month, they also have to offer you the choice to just take that $200 in cash instead. And boom, suddenly the playing field is level. You're actually rewarded for carpooling or taking the bus or biking to work, not just for driving alone. And the results? They're absolutely dramatic. A landmark study in California found that after cashing out was implemented, solo driving dropped by 17%. Meanwhile, carpooling skyrocketed by 64%, and transit use jumped by 50%. It just goes to show people respond to incentives, and this gives them a real choice.
And if you're wondering about the financial bottom line, well, here it is. For every single dollar spent on these cash-out programs, they generate at least $4 back in public benefits, like less traffic and cleaner air. I mean, that is an incredible return on investment. And our third solution brings us full circle, right back to housing. Reforming parking mandates simply means getting rid of those outdated one-size-fits-all rules. Instead of forcing a developer to build 100 spots, you let them build what the market actually wants. Maybe that's 50 spots, or maybe it's none. This flexibility can dramatically lower construction costs, which in turn helps make housing more affordable for everyone. So, what does all of this add up to? Well, it's a fundamental shift in our priorities. For decades, our policies have been designed to subsidize parking spaces, pieces of concrete. This new paradigm argues that it's time to start subsidizing people instead. It really all comes down to this core idea. When you give people a real choice, whether that's cash instead of a parking spot or a home without a bundled garage, they often make decisions that are better for themselves, better for their community, and better for the environment. Which, of course, brings us to the final crucial question. These smarter parking policies, they aren't just theories on a page. They're proven to work in the real world. They reduce traffic, they clean our air, and they can lower the cost of living. So if we have the tools to build better, more affordable cities, what are we waiting for?